If the members will please take their seats and take a second to log into your mics for voting. All right, folks, we're running a little bit late today, but we'll get started. Good afternoon. Today's Wednesday, March the 19th, 2025. I hereby call State and Local Government Committee to order. Madam Clerk, will you please open the board for roll call? Has every member voted? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 15 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Representative Dixie is here. Make sure to count him. The chairman will take a personal privilege here, and I have a guest with me today that would like to introduce a group that's with us today. So, Sarah Beth, if you would come up to the podium, make sure the mic comes on, and I will recognize you. Sarah Beth is the president of the Tennessee Hospitality Association. You're recognized.
Thank you very much. Yes. President and CEO of the Tennessee Hospitality Tourism Association, and I would love to get a chance to recognize, we represent the dining, lodging, and tourism industries across the entire state, and I would love to recognize the amazing individuals that make up our membership and our industry who are all out in the audience today. So if you are here today from our industry, please stand and be recognized. Thank you so much.
Thank you. One of the numbers I heard not too long back was for every dollar we spend in the state of Tennessee for tourism, it brings 3 into our local communities. So that's a great investment that we're making. So thank y'all for being with us and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Do any of the members have any announcements or personal orders? Seeing none, Representative Salinas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Crawford. I just wanted to give a welcome to the National Women's Political Caucus and the League of Women Voters who are here for Women's Day on the Hill. So we can welcome them.
Any other members? Seeing none, we'll move on. Today we got 69 bills on the calendar. So that's just a few. We will probably not get to every bill today, and we will be moving around. It's a busy time of year. People having to come in and out of committee to present in other committees, and then I have chairman that's chairing other committees. So we'll jump around, but I'll try to do my best to keep it all straight and keep you all informed. So I do have some business we need to take care of first. If you would mark your calendars. Item number 6 on today's calendar, House Bill 653, will be rolled for 1 week without objection. Item number 13, House Bill 1415, without objection, will be rolled 1 week. Item number 4, House Bill 548, will be rolled 1 week without objection. And item 62, House Bill 765, without objection, will be taken off notice. Item 49, House Bill 1327, without objection, will be taken off notice. And item 63, House Bill 766, without objection, shall be taken off notice. All right. See, we disposed of about 7 bills real quick. So. Okay, folks, the first item we have today is House Bill 69 by Leader Lamberth. I do see we have some amendments. Will you please give us the drafting code you'd like to run?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could run drafting code 4931 first.
Okay, give me just a second. Okay, is traveling with the bill, so we will take it up as it is.
And then
We need to put it on? Okay, so we'll go ahead without objection. All those in favor of placing that amendment onto House Bill 69, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Your bill's now amended. Would you like for us to, go ahead, sir, you're recognized.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then I have amendment coded 5586 that would amend that amendment. Specifically, it deletes 2241 in subsection 1 and substitutes in some new language.
Proper motion and second. We will go ahead and place the amendment code onto House Bill 69. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Your bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Very simple and straightforward bill. This allows or actually requires the Secretary of State, the Coordinator of Elections, to create a portal that would check as to whether or not someone is a convicted felon or if they're a U.S. citizen prior to them being actually registered to vote. So when somebody goes down to register to vote right now, there's nothing that checks that. This would just be a system. They have a grant for it that they can do that, and it would ensure that only U.S. citizens and only those that have not been convicted of felonies or had their rights restored if they haven't been convicted of a felony would be actually voting. There were 15 convicted felons that voted in Sumter County over the last couple of years. 13 of those folks were prosecuted, unfortunately, because some of their convictions were 20 and 30 years old. They had not gotten their rights restored, but it had been so long back, they went down and registered to vote and just assumed, many of them, that they wouldn't be allowed to if they were not permitted to. Instead, each of them were charged with a couple different felonies for registering to vote as a convicted felon and then, in fact, voting. During that same time period, we had an election for county commission in our district that was an exact tie. I cannot tell you if the 15 individuals that voted improperly in our district affected that particular race, but it is disturbing to know that there were folks that were not allowed to vote that were actually voted, and then you have that kind of a really close race. So this would avoid that once they get this system up and running.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions? Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, I'm not sure if you know the answer to this bill, but I thought I'd give it a shot. Answer to this question, but I'd give it a shot. So if someone is registered, let's say in Sumner County, and they've gotten their rights restored and they can then vote, and they move to Davidson County, is there another process that they have to go through in Davidson County, or just that one takes care of it?
Leader Lamberth.
Actually, there's a bill moving through that would clarify some of that right now. But the way it's supposed to work is once you get your rights restored, wherever you move after that, your rights are restored. And so you're able to register and change your registration just like any other citizen because your rights have been restored. So, again, there's a different bill that kind of deals with right on point on that issue. This one would just check in the system and would catch if someone's not supposed to be registered.
Representative Dixie for follow-up.
Yeah, I've had a couple of constituents that this kind of fell in this situation, and I didn't know how to guide them in that. So hopefully that bill will provide some clarification, and then we can make it a little easier where people know what to do.
Leader Lamberth.
If I may, and I don't want to go too far afield, I'll make the chairman mad, but it's by Representative Halsey has that bill. If you want to check with him, it's a good bill, but that's the one that deals with it.
Do any of the other members have any questions? Representative Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Leader, would this create a duty to report by the coordinator of elections if he knowingly knows of that crime being committed?
Leader Lamberth.
So this is to prevent the crime. The coordinator of elections, Mark Goins, does a phenomenal job. We've honored him on the floor before with resolutions, does a very, very competent job on this, has for many, many years, as you know. And we have not asked for a specific report, but we have asked them to design a system so that these folks actually do not register to vote. Look, it's not fair for these folks, quite frankly, to get in trouble if they don't even realize that they can't. When you go in to register to vote, there's just a box that they check. It says, are you a convicted felon? Have you had your rights restored? And some of these folks, I know I talked to a couple of them, they looked at the people behind the desk and said, hey, I had a felony way back when. I think my rights were restored. What do I do? And they said, well, if they were restored, you're fine. And so this is specifically for that circumstance where, yes, they should not have registered to vote. Yes, they absolutely should have been held accountable. But at the same time, I feel like there's a little bit of responsibility on our part to design a system where that can't even happen. So that's what the system does.
Representative Mitchell for follow-up.
Yeah, I agree, Leader, but I think we need to heighten the responsibility also on the people who are supposed to have election integrity in this state, that if they know of a felony and they don't report it, they should be held accountable for not upholding, the integrity of our election process. And if the coordinator of elections knows of a felony and doesn't report it, we need to question ourselves.
Leader Lamberth.
Yes, and that's exactly how these came to light, is they reported them, did a very good job, as they always do. And so that's actually how these came to light. So, I mean, they're doing that now, and I'm sure we'll continue to do that. But that is how this came to light, is that it was reported by the register, the local, I think, election register, and they obviously coordinate with Mark Goins and Secretary of State on that. But
Chair Lady Littleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 69. Moving on to transportation. All those in favor, please vote yes on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 aye, 2 nay.
Leader Lamberth, your bill will move on to transportation. Item number 2, House Bill 604 by Leader Lamberth. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second. I do have an amendment that I think we need. Do we just need to put 5514? Do you have that amendment?
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Okay. I've got a proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like for us to place the amendment on the bill to be discussed?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Without objection, we'll vote on placing Amendment 5514 on to House Bill 604. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This bill is from the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission. From 2019 to 2023, alcohol-related vehicular crash deaths increased by 36%, and injury crashes increased by 12%. From 2019 to 23, the same time period, alcohol-related vehicular crashes for youth ages 13 to 19 increased by 209%. We're losing far too many people in this state to crashes that are wholly preventable. What this allows the ABC to do is to actually investigate what started a crescendo of events many times that can be deadly, and that's to go back and actually investigate the bar or the bartender that may have overserved someone. This strengthens their ability to be able to do that, and do that as a criminal investigation, as any other entity of law enforcement will be able to do. And Mr. Chairman, it's very important to allow them to do this, and that's what the bill does.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any members with questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 604. All those in favor, please vote yes on the board or no. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Hey, stop that.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 aye, 0 nay, and 2 present not voting.
Leader Lamberth, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I hope you're half as kind to these other folks here as you have been to me. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, item number 3, House Bill 1326 by Chairman Vaughn. Proper motion and second. Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized on House Bill 1326.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, I'm proud to bring this legislation forward on behalf of the administration. It basically does 2 things. It begins vesting rights for property owners upon the submission of a development plan as opposed to the approval of a development plan. That's the first thing it does. And then the second thing it does is it's a permissive bill that allows local jurisdictions to issue conditional use permits administratively if they want to, and then use the Board of Zoning Appeals as an appellate process. So that's the two aspects of this.
Members, you've heard the
legislation.
explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Mitchell, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And sorry, I should have asked you this in subcommittee, but you said submission of a building plan or proposal. Being a former Metro councilman, you know, a lot of developers, a lot of builders, they submit a lot of stuff. It may not be a complete plan. It may not be, you know, they haven't checked all the boxes or crossed all the T's or dotted all the I. Or is your intent that it is a complete plan that they have submitted with all the requirements necessary?
Chairman Vaughn, you can answer if you want to.
Boy, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I got an answer for you, Representative Mitchell. In Section 8, B, subsection 2, notwithstanding B1, a vested property right is not established unless the plan or building permit substantially complies with the requirements of the local development ordinances and regulations pursuant to this subsection.
Representative Mitchell for a follow-up.
Substantially is an awfully big word. Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1326. Moving on to finance. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote?
Hard.
Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 aye, 4 nay.
Chairman Vaughn, your bill moves on to finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and most of the committee.
Okay, we're going to jump over to item number 5. This is House Bill 917 by Chairman Faison. Got a proper motion and second. Chairman Faison, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. Certainly good to be with y'all. This bill revision will clarify that State Building Commission can approve a waiver of advertisement when the members agree that it's the best interest of the state for a particular lease need. And currently, the statutory language appears to require that the space itself have a special and unique requirements. So it's just basically getting rid of that. It's a technical correction for our Building Commission.
You've heard the explanation of the chairman. Is there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 917. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 aye.
Thank you, Committee.
Chairman Faison, your bill moves on to calendar and rules. Item number 7 on today's agenda, House Bill 592 by Chairman Doggett. Got a proper motion and second. Chairman Doggett, you are recognized on your bill.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 592 is simply just streamlining a process for an individual who has been judicially exonerated. Current practice now, you'll have to have a certificate of exoneration from the governor once you've been judicially exonerated in a court of law that you have found to be innocent, to be able to go before the Board of Claims to file for compensation. Under this bill, there's two things that must happen. One, your conviction must be overturned pursuant to innocence litigation in a Tennessee court. And the second thing, the state must dismiss all charges, if these two things are true, which are extremely rare. There's only been 36 exonerations in the state's history. A person can then go directly to the Board of Claims to file for compensation.
You've heard the explanation from the sponsor. Are there any questions? Representative Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, like you said, the ones in the past, is this going to be able to go back and get any of those, or are we just going forward?
Chairman Doggett.
This is going forward, yes, sir.
Representative Mitchell, you have a follow-up?
Wait, time out.
Representative Chairman Doggett, go ahead.
Let's throw it in reverse for a second. Yes, there is a lady by the name of Joyce Watkins who would be applicable under this legislation. She was judicially exonerated within the last 2 years, and so this would make her eligible to file for a claim of compensation with the Board of Claims.
Representative Mitchell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So why are we just catching one instead of, there's a gentleman, I think this came in my office recently, not about this piece of legislation, but I mean, he spent 20-something years sitting in prison innocent. And, he's been out, last 10 years or so. I hate that we're catching one, but we're not catching some of the others.
Chairman Doggett, would you like to answer that?
Yes, sir, I can. If he's went through the process, going back through the court system and the courts and the district attorneys, and those have overturned. Ms. Watkins even went a step further. She went before the Board of Parole, and they were unanimous in their decision as well.
Just so the committee will understand, I'm going to take a second, and we're going to go out of session to hear from legal. Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Matt Money from Legal. Anyone whose conviction is vacated under these 3 additional statutes based on new evidence, which is really what we're talking about, not pardons by the governor, there's a 1-year period from the effective date of this bill that anyone whose conviction has been overturned in the past can come back to the Board of Claims and seek restitution.
Do you have a question for finance? For legal? Representative Dixie.
All right, this will satisfy the question that I probably had anyway. Is there a cap on the compensation?
Legal?
Thank you, Matt Money from Legal. The cap is $1 million in the aggregate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Without objection, we'll go back in session. Chairman Doggett, do you have anything to add?
I don't know, sir.
Is there any more questions for the chairman? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 592. Moving on to finance. Madam Clerk, you will open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 aye.
Chairman Doggett, your bill moves on to finance.
Thank you all very much.
Item number 8, House Bill 324 by Chairman Grills. Got a proper motion and second. Chairman Grills, you're recognized on House Bill 324.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill prohibits the office of governor from infringing on any rights granted to the citizen by the Tennessee Constitution in an emergency.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 324. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 15 aye, 4 nay.
Chairman Grills, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized, sir.
I have the next bill as well. I didn't know if you were going to get to that or not.
Okay, House Bill 801. I do see that we have a amendment on it. Would you please give us your drafting code?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, 004191.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill to be discussed? Without objection, we'll go ahead and vote on Amendment 4191 going on to House Bill 801. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The IECC, which is the International Energy Conservation Code, in 2021 restricted the roof coverings in the state of Tennessee to only highly reflective roofs. And this legislation reinstates the rights of business owners to use any of the previously allowed roof coverings in the state, only for commercial buildings.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Is there any questions? Representative Powell.
Thank you. To the sponsor, do you know why those restrictions were put in place?
Chairman Grills?
I believe thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the code was, we adopted a code back a few years back and it removed those two. There was two that it removed, and this just puts those back in there. I believe those that were removed, or the reason they were highly reflective was for Florida, Arizona, California, places like that. But the further north you get, the easier it is to use some of these other technologies that we just banned.
Representative Powell, you have a follow-up? Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 801. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, you will open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 18 aye, 0 nay, and 1 present not voting.
Chairman Grills, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative McCalman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know I'm out of order, but I would like to welcome my county trustee, Ms. Karen Paris. She's out in the audience right now, so members, if you would please make her feel welcome.
Out of order. We'll go ahead and take up item 12 on today's agenda. Chairman White, would you come up? This is House Bill 876 by Chairman White. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Chairman of the Committee. This particular bill is called the State Employee Fee Waiver Clarification. Really, the only reason it had to be clarified, if we were reading it, unless you're a lawyer, a lot of times we had to put things in there for legal language. But years ago, a bill was passed that all full-time state employees can enroll up to 4 courses per year at one of our state institutions of higher education without paying tuition. There's a cap of no more than 4 courses per year. Now, in 2017, when Senator Dolores Gresham was here, she passed the bill allowing state employees who have to work more than 40 hours a week during certain times of the year, that they could take 2 courses per semester, but no more than 4 per year. And she indicated at the time of her testimony that this also applied to the General Assembly staff. And just like right now, January through April, our staff was working more than 40 hours a week, and it's very hard for them to do one of the courses during this busy time. So this also includes them, that they can also take two courses in a semester, with the cap being at 4, to be included in this. And so we're just kind of cleaning up the language, make sure that it does indicate that it is also includes our General Assembly staff. With that, I renew my motion.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Mitchell.
Does this apply to commissioners as well?
Commissioners,
You're representative.
No comment.
Okay, no comment. Any other questions for Chairman White? Representative Powell.
And I appreciate that. Could you just, I got a little bit lost. I was trying to understand, just because I think this is really beneficial especially for our legislative staff that might want to take the hours. Can you explain how with the program is going to work now?
Well, the way it works like it always has, like I say, according to the law, state employees can take up to 4 courses per year or calendar year, right? But they can't take any more than 4 courses or in any one calendar year. The question was, when we have employees of the state and now also the General Assembly staff, when they're having to work overtime during this time, it's very hard for them to take a course during that time. And so really they just lock down into a couple of semesters of the year. This says they can take 2 courses. It was limited to 1 course per semester. And this says they can do 2 courses to get to their 4 per year.
Representative Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say I actually benefited from this law actually got my MBA from the University of Memphis, taken one semester, basically every quarter or whatever you want to call it. I probably wouldn't have done as well had I taken 2 courses. But for those of us that that they can take 2 courses, it'll help them get done quicker. So I really appreciate you bringing the bill. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions for Chairman White? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 876. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the vote, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes.
Chairman White, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman. Committee.
Okay. We're going to jump down to item 19, House Bill 1144 by Chairman Boyd. Proper motion and second. I do see we have a drafting code. Can you please give us your drafting number?
Mr. Chairman, that's drafting code 4905.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the proper motion and second on the amendment? Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill to be discussed?
Yes, sir.
Without objection, we're voting on amendment number 4905 going on to House Bill 1144. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I am very proud to bring this piece of legislation, but deeply saddened by the circumstances that caused me to file it. A dear friend of mine in 2023 lost his son. His son was in custody in a private prison in Trousdale County and unfortunately died. And he has shed a lot of light on the prison system in Tennessee, particularly the private prisons. And what this bill seeks to do is to hold our private prisons more accountable to the inmate deaths and the amount of violence that's in them by reducing the inmate population in private prisons by 10% if the death rate of that prison is double that of an equivalent state-operated facility. And Mr. Chairman, I have Mr. Tim Leeper with me here today. He's on the list. I would love if we could go out of session and I could let him testify, please.
Okay, give me just a second. I don't have him on the list. Okay. I don't think we have him. He's not on the list.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and proceed then. Any questions on 1144 for the Representative Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the bill. The way I understand it, there will be a reduction of 10% of the population. So if there is a reduction, will those inmates go to state-controlled prisons at that point?
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, what would happen, those inmates would be absorbed into the into Tennessee Department of Corrections prisons until such time as the private prison could correct their situation, and then they would be put back in there.
Okay.
Follow up.
Will the money follow those inmates
Chairman Boyd.
to the state prisons?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, the funding will stop to the private prison when the inmates are out of there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Representative Martin.
Thank you, Chairman Boyd. Do you know how many deaths have occurred in the state-run prison as opposed to the private-run prison?
Chairman Boyd.
I have that information. These are some, Mr. Chairman, are you sure he's not on the list? We thought we had that confirmed. My assistant, I even checked just a moment ago and said, but you don't show him on the list.
I do not show him, but if you would like, I'll confirm that with legal and the research analyst and make sure.
Okay.
You have it. We do not have him on the
Okay.
Okay. You're recognized to answer Representative Martin's question.
Stand by just a moment, Mr. Chairman. Let me get that information.
Warner. Chairman Boyd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, so of the core civic deaths in fiscal year 2023 were 68 deaths of the 144 total deaths, so about 47% of them for the private prisons.
Next on the list is our favorite question asker, Representative Mitchell.
Hey, I'll be brief. I commend you for bringing this. You know, I've been screaming about the private prison since 1994. Every state audit by the Comptroller's Office of the Department of Correction since 1994, they've been out of compliance. CCA, Core Civic, or whatever they're going to have to change their name to next once they ruin this name. They have been out of compliance with the contract, negative findings in every audit, and we keep doing it over and over, renewing their contract, giving them billions and billions of dollars to kill Tennesseans. And I commend you for bringing this legislation to finally, hopefully, hold them accountable.
Chairman Boyd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your approval of the bill.
Next on our list is Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the bill sponsor. I think it's a great bill. You just raised my curiosity there a little bit. Do you know how many prisons in the state of Tennessee that are being run by this company?
Chairman Boyd.
Stand by just a moment. Members, there are 4 of them that are being run by private prisons at this time. One of them that's directly with the state, and the other 3 are leased through the county that they're in. So the agreement is with the county, who then contracts with them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor.
Next on our list is Representative Burkhart.
I just have a question. Do we know how when these deaths occurred, how they were staffed as far as the private prisons were staffed when these deaths occurred?
Chairman Boyd?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, there seems to be chronic understaffing at the private prisons. That seems to be a problem.
Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
And the last name I have on the list is Representative Dixie. Look, before I recognize you, go ahead, Chairman Boyd.
Mr. Chairman, if I could I roll this bill 1 week? Testimony was a big part of this, and I don't know what happened between my assistant and the research analyst, but I brought my constituent to testify today, and I'd really like to have him.
They filled out a card and testified in subcommittee, but they have not filled one out for full. So
can I roll
without objection, we will roll House Bill 876 to the hill of the calendar.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's House Bill 1114. 1144. All right, we finally got it. To the hill of the calendar. Item 14 on today's agenda. This is House Bill 1009 by Chairlady Moody. Got a proper motion and second. Chairlady Moody, you're recognized on your bill, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Pardon me for my rude entrance, but thank you. Members, it is an honor for me to bring this bill before you, and it is regarding our 100% disabled veterans. So right now, they are eligible for property tax relief for a $175,000 value. So what this bill simply does is it raises it to from the first $175,000 of market value to $250,000 of market value. And that is for 100% disabled veterans and their spouses. And with that, I'll take questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor on House Bill 1009. Are there any questions? Representative Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the sponsor, the fiscal note on this thing has a loss of state revenues of $12 million. Is that correct?
Chairlady Moody.
Well, look at there.
I mean, if
Representative Bricken, you're recognized.
thank you. I mean, if it's property taxes, it seems like this will be a local impact, not a state impact. I don't understand. I mean,
Chair Lady Moody.
I don't know that I could properly explain off the cuff.
Okay, I have an answer from legal, so without any opposition, we'll go out of session. Legal, you are recognized.
Thank you. Matt Money for the record. Those reimbursements come from the state general fund. They're reimbursed back to the counties, to the recipients.
Any questions for legal? Seeing none, without objection, we'll go back in session. Chair Lady Moody, you're recognized again.
Thank you so much. I know this would mean so much, and you know, our 100% disabled veterans mostly they go through the U.S. Department of that to get declared that, but it's mostly they're blind, they have the loss of at least 2 limbs. There's just various conditions for these veterans to qualify even to be 100% disabled. So with that, you know, I know in my county, in Tipton County, we have a huge veteran population. And if I could brag on our Tipton County Museum, we honor a veteran from Tipton County every month. And I'm just happy that I could bring this before this body to rule on and to give a little bit more relief for our 100% disabled veterans and their spouses.
Representative Powell.
Thank you. I appreciate the bill. And just, you know, another point here I think I wanted to make is as we see home price values increase and then the taxes on those increase, you know, that amount which, you know, we need to keep up with that and make sure we're adjusting it because these taxes continue to rise, oftentimes because not the fault of the homeowner, but there's more development around them and that lifts all the values and then they have more to pay. So I really appreciate the bill, and I think we should keep up the pace to help these veterans. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1009. Moving on to finance, Madam Clerk, you will open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 aye.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you so much, committee.
Next, we're going to jump over to item 18. This is House Bill 1173 by Chairman Williams. Got a proper motion and second. Chairman Williams, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. This bill was brought to me by my local county commission. They're in the process of building a new fairgrounds facility, and they found that they couldn't purchase buildings direct, which would allow them to save the sales tax as well as purchase that building at a discounted rate, let them do that. There are applications where local governments can buy through GSA contracts. This would just add their ability to buy those buildings. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the members might have.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, questions being called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1173. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 nays.
Chairman Williams, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have number 40. I'm glad to step back and come back. Originally, that bill was carried by Representative Scarborough in my absence when I had a family member that was ill. I'm on that bill, but it's listed in a different place in the calendar. But I don't want to impugn Chairman Darby, who's been sitting here patiently, who we skipped, I might need a vote for later on.
He's so happy right now. He's having to sit on his hands to keep from clapping.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and take you out of order.
Thank you.
Item number 40. Got a proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment on this bill, House Bill 1306. Got a proper motion and second on amendment number 5249, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Got a proper motion and second. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, sir, please.
Without objection, we'll place amendment 5249 on to House Bill 1306. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Chairman and members. This bill is an administration bill that Leader Lambert asked me to carry. This bill would incentivize building of affordable housing units and expedite the economic development process for these projects across the state of Tennessee, providing more flexibility to our local governments through financial incentives, broadening the brownfield economic plan subdivisions, and deleting unnecessary economic planning processes. This legislation, as defined, will redefine the industrial development projects to include single-family residences, condominiums, and townhomes for affordable and workforce housing projects. It also allows for industrial development corporations to develop, purchase, or finance affordable workforce housing developments. It also amends the economic development planning meeting requirements to allow amendments to an economic impact plan to be approved at the same time of the approval of the plan. This legislation amends that real property will be included in total property tax evaluation for the land, which will be used for tax increment financing purposes, much like we currently do for industrial projects that might come to our communities or to sometimes retail projects. This would do exactly the same thing as it relates to affordable or workforce development projects for housing. And finally, this legislation allows for a fixed dedicated taxes for the duration of the tax increment financing plan approved by any municipality. With that, Chairman and members, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
You've heard the explanation from the sponsor on House Bill 1306. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1306. Well, hang on just a second. I do have some members that signed up from Department of Economic Community Development. Do y'all wish to speak? Okay. All right. We're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 1306 as amended, moving on to Finance, Ways and Means, please vote yes on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 22 ayes, 0 nay.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman and members. Chairman Darby, too.
Okay. Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Out of order. I wanted to recognize County Commissioner Amber Mills in the audience out here. I just noticed she was here. Could you stand? Let us welcome you to our meeting. Thank you.
Out of order. All right, item 15, House Bill 1412 by Representative Darby. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is repeals an obsolete private act regarding the acquisition and operation of a nursing home in Henry County.
You've heard the explanation from the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Questions being called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1412. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please vote yes on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 22 ayes, 0 nay.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. Next is House Bill 1414, item 16 on your agenda by Representative Darby. We've got a proper motion and second. Representative Darby, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This authorizes Henry County Commission to appoint a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 7 members to the Board of Trustees for the Henry County Hospital District, reduces the frequency of regular meetings of the Board of Trustees from monthly to quarterly.
You've heard the explanation of the bill. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1414. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 22 ayes, 0 nay.
Representative Darby, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, item 17. This is House Bill 437 by Representative Darby. Representative Darby, I've got a proper motion and second. You're recognized on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This authorizes a county that has adopted the County Sheriff's Civil Service Act of 1974 to rescind such adoption by a 2/3 vote of the county legislative body.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 437. Moving on to finance, Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 20 ayes, 0 nay, and 2 present not voting.
Representative Darby, your bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Y'all made Henry County stronger today. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to jump back on our agenda and go to House Bill 886. This is Chairman Todd. Chairman Todd, I do see we have an amendment on this bill. Can you please give us your drafting code?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 5133.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second. Would you like for us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
I sure would, sir. Thank you.
Without objection, we're placing amendment number 5133 on to House Bill 886. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized on your bill, Chairman.
Thank you so much. This is a party registration bill, and I've spoken to many of you on the committee, and I think many of you have co-sponsored this bill, and I really appreciate that. This authorizes our voters to affiliate with a political party, beginning on November 1st of this year. We're giving time for our election officials to get their systems and their databases worked out. They'll have to tweak that. For persons who are not registered to vote prior to that date, they can register as a member of the party at the time they register to vote. For persons who are registered to vote now or prior to November 1st, they can add party registration to their voter registration record during the voter registration period, which ends 30 days prior to an election day, or when they show up for the first primary at any time in the future. After a person is registered as a member of a political party and they want to change their affiliation, they can do so. It is up to 90 days prior to the election date for a primary. And after November 1st, the effective date, a person wishing to vote in a primary election will only be able to vote in the party primary for which that person is registered. So with that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? We do have members to speak on, guests to speak on this, so just making the committee aware of that. My first person on the list is Representative Warner.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Todd, for bringing this bill. This bill has been much needed for a long time in this state. I want to tell you thank you, and hopefully this stops some of the crossover voting that we have in the state. Thank you.
Representative Powell.
Thank you. I oppose the bill, but I do appreciate you outlining all the details. It was pretty thorough, so thank you for that. What concerns me with this bill, a lot of things, but the biggest one is I think that it just creates even more partisanship. We have a great tradition of independence in the state of Tennessee, and I know people that like one candidate that's a Democrat, stands out to them one year saying a gubernatorial race, and next year they like the Republican gubernatorial candidate. And so they like to switch because they like the different candidate that's there. The other concern I have is once somebody votes in a primary and then has cast that vote and has to then register for that party, say 4 years go by, they don't vote in another primary, then they show up on election day to vote, say, the other party because they like that other candidate, they can't do it. And I get there's some parameters that got so many days, but I just think that that's very difficult for the general public to understand. So, for that reason, I think that this is really going to further diminish independence. And, I know I'm proud of getting the support of a lot of independents, and I know there's probably Democrats that switch over and vote for you in a primary. But, I just think this is going to create more partisanship. And I hope we can hear, Mr. Chairman, from the testimony from those who are here to speak. I just wanted to say that because I really do want to hear that testimony, but I'll let you respond to that.
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the comments. I will say, the first couple of points I'll make about that, you were correct that a person will be able to switch if they decide that a candidate is in a primary that they want to vote in that they're not already registered with, they can switch. But by law right now, switching parties in a primary or voting where you're not affiliated is already against the law. We're not changing that. We're just creating a system where folks can know what they're registered with and choose very affirmatively, because right now, you'd be surprised at how many people think they are registered with one party or another, and they're really not. So the public has kind of been demanding this. The second thing I'd point out is that the political parties are private organizations. This is really no different. The current law we have is no different than if the Rotary Club in your town is having an election for their officers on next Wednesday, and the Exchange Club members decide they're going to go over there and help elect those officers. That's not allowed. We don't allow that in churches, where they're voting on a pastor. You don't have church from across the street come over and help elect that pastor. So these private organizations, the private political parties, are that. They are private, and it is closed already in law. So this just enhances that.
Representative Powell for a follow-up.
For a follow-up on that, I'd just like to say that, like it or not, obviously I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, but we really are limited just to a two-party system in this country. So most people are limited in their choices. I know our state law, we make it even harder for independent candidates to run. I've actually supported independent candidates running for office, and I've had independent candidates just actually challenge my validity to be up here. So, I support independent candidates, but I guess one distinction I did want to point out is right now you can, in my mind, I make up and say, yeah, I'm going to vote Democrat. I'm a Democrat in this election. And you're following the laws. It's what's your intent, what's in your mind, what your feelings are. This takes it a step further and makes you actually have to sign up, and then you're in that, you're registered in that party. And again, if you change your mind, some people, there might be two candidates you're really, I can speak to examples where I know people have looked at voting in either presidential primary. They liked both candidates. They weren't sure. They kind of, at the last minute, somebody influenced them. But this doesn't allow that person to show up at the ballot box and make that decision. There's so many days in advance that you have to change that party that I think it's prohibitive. And I also think it's going to further diminish voter turnout in our state, because you're just not going to see as many people excited to go vote when they feel like they're isolated to just two parties. So for that, I appreciate your explanation, but I'm opposed to the bill. Thank you.
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, appreciate your comments and your concerns. This is, to your point that you made of your analogy, what a person does in that situation is already violate state law. I mean, you mentioned in your mind you may want to vote for someone, but you're literally, and the law says you have to pledge your allegiance to that party to vote in that primary. So I don't know how somebody's party allegiance can change from one day to the next. But, Mr. Chairman, I certainly, and I know we've got people that have traveled here. I know one person's traveled here 2 weeks in a row, and because it was my mistake, but would certainly like to hear from the public on this as much as we can.
Okay, Representative Powell, I'll give you a follow-up, so I'll put you on the bottom of the list, but we'll move on to Representative Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think I know how your bill deals with independents, but why don't you tell me how are independents dealt with? Someone doesn't affiliate with either party. Can they choose which primary they want to vote in?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. An unaffiliated voter, once they have been through one primary, because the one primary triggers this. If they were to register through a primary and vote in a primary or send in a registration where they're literally affiliating with the party, they have the option to change that in the future and say, I'm unaffiliated. So that, I think, would fit what you're asking. Once they're unaffiliated, then they cannot vote, and that's under current law. They could not vote in either primary if they're unaffiliated.
Representative Mitchell for a follow-up.
Yeah, 21 states allow for independents to, 2026, they're going to vote in the Republican primary. 2028, they'll vote in the Democratic primary. They maybe go back in 30 to the Republican primary. I'd hope you'd be willing to take an amendment on the floor that if you don't want independents, my party surely does. So I'd like to just amend your bill, and 5 states, Democrats will allow for independents to vote in our primary. I'm going to take that 15 to 17% in this state. If you don't want it, I'll be more than happy to take them.
Chairman Todd, do you have a response?
Just very quickly, our tent is very broad, and we're gaining members all the time because independents and some Democrats are realizing just how attractive the policies of the Republican Party are already in this state, and that's why we're growing. And so that's still available to them through this process. We're not stifling that at all.
Representative Rudder.
Representative Todd, would you tell me what it's going to look like when we walk into the election commissions on November 1st, I think you said it was? What does that process look like for, let's say, somebody that, well, I would like to see what it's going to look like for somebody that well, I guess just we're walking in, we're gonna sign up to be a Republican. Exactly what does that, how do you do that? And are you going to be issued a card? Are we going to be card carrying Republicans in the state of Tennessee? Or how does that work? And how are you going to monitor, like every time we go to vote after we are registered as Republicans in this state, how do they police that? Is there going to, when we go in to vote, is the Election Commission going to have some sort of mechanism that shows that we are a Republican and we're going to be locked out? If a Democrat walks in and says, I'm a Republican, that will be denoted too. Just how does that work?
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a current registered voter will have 2 or 3 different ways they can register with a party if they so choose. They can either, after November 1st, they can go online and literally register. They can mail in a registration ballot to change or to just add party registration to their voter record. Or when they show up at the next primary, they're going to be given the same piece of paper they're given today to say, which ballot do you want, which primary? And if they choose one or the other, then they are literally registering with that party at that moment. Then in the future, they can change that. There are mechanisms here for them to change that 90 days or more out from an election day, primary election day. And the voter registration system will be updated to have a column for party registration. If a person so chooses, it will be noted there, and that's what will identify you. Again, if you haven't changed it to unaffiliated, then you will still be able to vote in that primary you're registered in.
Representative Ruther for a follow-up.
What do you say to the argument that these primaries are funded by taxpayer dollars? So if some people don't want to be associated with either party, but let's say these independents out there that are, I guess we all have said they're never going to, they want to be independent. They don't want to be associated with either party. So what is your comment on these are taxpayer funded elections, but yet unless you decide that you want to be either a Democrat or a Republican, you are really locked out of the primary system?
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that question. This doesn't change what's already in current law, and what you described is already the law today. If you are affiliated with a party, if you pledged your allegiance to a party, you're allowed to vote in that primary. If you vote in a primary where you don't pledge your allegiance to that party, you're violating state law, and that's even up to a felony. So I'm not changing that. This doesn't affect that. This just literally sets up a registration system. So for independents, unaffiliated voters. Now, if they vote in a primary, and I have known some that do, literally were on the ballot as an independent but pulled a one party primary or the other in that same election, they're literally violating state law and putting themselves in jeopardy.
All right, next on my list is Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple things. One is I wanted to, it says there's a local, it says it's a mandated local impact to the, mandated tax impact to the locals, which I think is unfair, and I don't think that we should be imposed on locals to add this mandate to them. Number two, could you, my colleague from Davidson County kind of glossed over it, but could you explain so I can understand clearly that you said, like, so 4 years ago in the previous primary, if someone voted Democrat, then in this new one, they wanted to vote Republican, but they didn't fill out any of the work, of the paperwork, they would or would not be able to vote?
Chairman Todd.
So this is all moving forward. This has nothing to do with how you voted in the past. This is literally once after November 1st. If you want to go online and register as a registered voter now, go online and register with a party, you're allowed to do so. If you just don't do anything and you show up for the next primary, let's say it's next August, then during that primary, you're going to be given a piece of paper that says, which party do you want? That's what we do today. Which ballot do you want? And it'll have a statement saying you're joining that party officially at that point. So, and if it's 20 years from now that you show up for the first primary, it'd be the same process. Yeah. If no one takes any action, but they show up at a primary 20 years from now, they're going to be treated the same. They will say, I'm now a member of that party as I pull that ballot for that particular party that I want to vote for.
Representative Dixie for follow-up.
Okay, I think I'm confused because it sounds like I heard you say, let's say the next year in 2026, if I decide I want to vote Democrat, but in 2030, I want to vote Republican, but I don't complete any paperwork. To my understanding, what you were saying is you won't be able to vote. And my last question is that if we have this particular process in place, it seems like this fiscal note is very low. And I can't understand how this is going to happen because it's a whole new process. There's going to be people, there's going to be paperwork. So I'm not really sure that this is accurate as far as what the locals' expenditures will be to implement this.
Chairman Todd.
I didn't create the fiscal note, so I don't know. And as you know, with fiscal notes, it's whatever feedback they get from the entities they ask. And so I don't have anything to do with that. But to your point, when you asked the first question, it was about 4 years ago. But you're correct. If moving forward, if you register with a party, either at the next primary or before that, then if you anytime after that you want to vote in a primary different than that, then you will need to change parties, and that's up to 90 days prior to the primary election day, and that process is laid out here.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your leniency. Just for clarification, if you don't complete the paperwork 90 days prior, will you be able to vote?
Chairman Todd.
You'll be able to vote in the primary with which you are registered, for the primary for the party with which you are registered.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try to bring us back around here, just to kind of keep the committee where we're at. Everybody that was on the list has spoken, except for people that want to speak again. But before I allow that to happen, I'm going to hear from our guest speakers. Yes, Mr. Warner.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, but if I may take a personal privilege, we have a great judge that has walked into the room from Marshall County, Ms. Judge Brizard. Could y'all make her feel welcome, please?
Out of order. All right, is there any objection to going out of session to hear from our guest? Seeing none, we're out of session. We'll, Debbie Gould, Stephen Dale Puckett Jr., will you all please come up to the table? And we will turn your mics on for you. We'll start with Mrs. Gould, and just give us your name, who you're with, and you will have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Debbie Gould, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Tennessee. We are a volunteer, nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation of citizens in government. And I'm speaking today in opposition to House Bill 886 that would transform Tennessee for the very first time into a state with closed primaries. We strongly believe that all election laws need to be voter-centric, making it easier for voters to select representatives of their choice. Closed primaries move this process in the wrong direction and have the potential to further reduce what is already a dismal voter participation rate in our state. House Bill 886 requires voters to declare party affiliation in order to participate in the primaries. New or existing registered voters who do not declare political party affiliation will be listed as unaffiliated. That information would be included in their permanent voter registration. Voters who wish to change their parties would have to submit a request in writing to their county election commission a full 90 days before a primary, which would be incredibly cumbersome and unrealistic. Think about it. That would mean in December before a presidential election, those people would need to submit their information in writing. That's probably not realistic. We have seen the trends in recent years. Most elections in Tennessee are decided in the primary, not in the general election. In 2024, 30% of the races for Tennessee's legislature went uncontested. A national Gallup poll conducted a year ago found that 43 of their respondents self-identified as independent. Those are exactly the people who would be excluded from a closed primary. In particular, we know that millennials and Gen Z voters are avoiding party affiliations, and a closed primary will limit their ability to choose their representatives, since the major decisions will already be made before the general election. Let's not limit the ability of Tennessee citizens to select the representatives of their choice when they go to the polls. I urge you to vote against House Bill 886. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gould. Next on the list is Stephen Dale Puckett. You're recognized. Give us your name, who you're with, and you'll have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Stephen Dale Puckett. I am a resident of Hendersonville, Tennessee, and I'm speaking for myself and myself alone, but there may be others that support my position. I'm speaking in opposition to this because, not just on the principle that, quite honestly, the state, it's none of the state's business that what your affiliation is, that, the sponsor actually mentioned these are private organizations. You would think that we would have that conversation with them as opposed to they would hold the records as opposed to the state. But the other major concern, though, is harassment and intimidation, where we have already people being targeted for harassment and intimidation because they vote in the wrong primary or they're unaffiliated. One of the things we actually discovered in Sumner County as we were advocating for a school board candidate in the general election was that we couldn't get some people to come out and vote in the general election because they would have to they're not going to pull a primary ballot, and they're because they don't want to register, and they're extremists that are saying if you don't pull a Republican ballot, you're going to be treated the same as a Democrat, and they're going to harass you. They're going to target your business to harass you and put you out of business. Not only that, but also there's concerns about misuse of data, where we have, the sponsor was talking about people being solicited to come and vote in a primary that they're not supposed to. During the county mayor's race, the most recent one, I was sent I am a executive committee member on the Sumner County Democratic Executive Committee. I have a near pure Democratic record, and yet I was sent a solicitation that was by both county mayor candidates for the Republican primary that was underwritten by the Tennessee Republican Party. I mean, they're not even managing their own list. And that would be would be considered solicitation of a criminal act. Not only that, this last election, I've got solicitations from independent groups, one of which knows me personally, to vote in Republican primaries. Thankfully, I'm not some 90-year-old grandmother who would be, get upset in a polling place and end up getting myself arrested because I'm trying to vote in a primary I thought I was invited to. As the saying goes, if you don't want people to vote in your event, don't come to your party. Don't send them an invitation.
Mr. Puckett, your time's up.
Thank you.
I apologize.
That's all right.
Next on our list is we have a Tracy Finnegan. Ms. Finnegan, you can have a seat. We'll turn your mic on. Give us your name, who you're with, and you will have 3 minutes, ma'am.
My name is Tracy Finnegan, and I'm a citizen. I ran for school board in Sumner County in 2024 as a Republican. Democrat crossover cost me the election. I've lived in Sumner County 32 years. I know the people of my district. I knocked on over 1,000 doors. I talked to hundreds of people. We discussed our shared conservative values. My district in Sumner County was one of the most conservative. No one had even heard of my opponent early on. She did not live in the district yet. She had just broken ground on a house. The community rallied around me. I had 250 signs compared to about 70 of my opponent. By the visual support and activity, it was clear I was the front runner. Election day came. The polls show I lost by 140 votes. My opponent could not even vote for herself. She still lived and voted in District 3, not District 8, where she ran. But that's another conversation for another day. After the election, hundreds of voters called and texted me asking what happened. Well, what happened? I uncovered huge Democrat crossover. My research shows between 163 and 940 Democrats crossed over in a district of approximately 2,350 voters, and they elected the Republican candidate. Voters asked, would I run again? Why would I run again? Why would I spend $5,000 of my own money and a year of my life? How can I compete with Dems robotexting Democrats, Dems coaching Democrats on social media? And I've got the goods of all of this, if anyone wants to see it. Polling to see how many votes were needed. It was a dirty, nasty campaign. Liberals pulled out all the stops on me. My opponent was even challenged by 5 bona fide Republicans based on her liberal ideology, boycotting the Pledge of Allegiance at school board meetings and GOP meetings. The educated voters knew. If it was not for Democrat crossover, I would be serving the conservative voters of District 8 on the school board instead of a liberal. Voters are paying attention, so please vote in favor of this bill.
Okay. Thank you for being with us, Ms. Finnegan. For questions for the guest, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here and expressing your concerns about this bill. As a state representative for the last 30 years on the floor of the House, we start with prayer. And the next thing we do, we pledge allegiance to the American flag and to this country. And as we're talking about this bill, there are a number of bills that are going through our system that prohibit, which it should, and I support that, undocumented immigrants from voting, illegal immigrants from voting. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm saying to myself, this person wants us to deny American-born citizens, Tennesseans who pay their taxes. We want them to do two things in this bill. We want them to make a pledge to a party, not a pledge to America, but to a party. We want them to make a pledge. And if you don't make that pledge, we're going to take away your right as an independent voter. We're going to take away your right. This is exactly what you're saying. This is not a good bill. So who do you want American citizens and Tennesseans to make a pledge to? A party or to the country?
You're recognized.
So in my conversations with the voters, I declared I was a Republican, and we had those conversations about those values. That's who they voted for. We had this shared purpose. Independents can vote, they can rally, and this is a primary, this is not a general election. Independents can vote in general elections. So this is a primary where a group of people, two different groups of people who have pledged that their values are the same. They pledge, allegiance is not the word I would use to a party, but they've pledged that we have these shared beliefs and viewpoints. We have these shared beliefs and viewpoints. And when 45% of my district, 45% were Democrats, had voted in 2020, in 2024, 5% voted Democrat. Where did 40% of the voters went? They went and they changed because they found a candidate with their values, and they changed over, they crossed over, and it was misrepresented. So there's two parties, and you pick the best of your party, we'll pick the best of our party. Thank you.
Okay, Chairman Rudd, for our guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, thank you for testifying. Also, thank you to Chairman Todd for running the bill. What was said by a previous witness and what's been said during this discussion, I partially agree with. It was stated earlier that the state should not interfere with our party selection process, and that's exactly true. They shouldn't, because that's what they do now. They deny us the right to choose Democrat or Republican. We're all forced to be independents. They won't give me my constitutional rights to let me run as a Republican. And I don't just run as a Republican to run to get elected. I believe in my heart and soul in that party and its platform and its beliefs. That's why I chose it. And to deny me that right is a disgrace to this nation and to our Constitution. So thank you for testifying and demonstrating your constitutional rights. And also thank you to the chairman. Thank you.
All right, folks, we are going to come to our hard stop, and I am going to, without objection, take us back in session. And I will recognize Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the previous question.
Previous question has been called. We do have objection. Do I see 3 hands? Okay. We are going to vote on previous question. Madam Clerk, open the board for vote on previous question. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 15 ayes and 5 nays.
Previous question prevails. We are ready to vote on House Bill 886. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you'll close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 13 ayes, 7 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Chairman Todd, your bill will move on to Finance, Ways, and Means.
Thank you so much.
Okay, folks, does any of the members have any announcements or personal orders? Seeing none, remember the bills that we did not get to take up today, they will be rolled to next week's calendar, and we will take them up next week. Without objection, we are adjourned. Do what? I couldn't hear you.